You've got an amazing background and a career journey that you've taken. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about that. And, also a little bit about Credera, where you're working today.
Okay. Hard to summarize 30 years. Educationally, I'm an engineer back when girls didn't do such things. There was no ladies' room in the engineering building, and I also have an MBA. I've spent most of my career in consulting, and that's where I currently am. I'm a partner at Credera, which is a global management and technology consulting firm focused on strategy transformation, data technology, and of course, AI.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about what brought you to Credera. So you just mentioned all this experience that you have. And I know you went from, you have been a consultant most of your life, but you're also engineer trained. And it would be great for people to just understand a little bit about your journey, like where you started that brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, you couldn't have planned it. It is the serpentine career path for sure. Was recruited out of engineering school into what is now Accenture to do something that I'd never heard of called management consulting. I did a few years at Lockheed Martin, and I was also a pre-sales engineer at a software company. So I consider that my foundational training, where I learned about business and systems and engineering and sales and processes. And then I became what is called a step out in my generation because I also wanted to be a mom. And that was before the Family Medical Leave Act. And so maternity leave wasn't particularly common. And I also wanted to give my child what I had the benefit of. I had a stay home mom, and I just couldn't imagine doing it any other way. So I had my daughter, and I stayed home with her for almost 5 years. And then I had needed to get back into the workforce. I wanted to get back into the workforce. But I think we've talked about this, Michelle. Like, she was born in 96. I had been in technology. The internet came along, cell phones came along, email, everything had changed. Interface. I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do? So, and I also wanted to control my schedule. I wanted to have flexibility to be a great mom and to be there after school. And so, I just did the natural thing. I started my own company. I say that very
Oh, natural.
I say that very flippantly. There was a lot of angst and tears and worry and not knowing how, and just kind of had to kind of step out and get started. And basically, I was doing consulting work focused on the nonprofit sector in North Texas. I wasn't trying to grow my company. I was just to create work for myself and some income. And occasionally, was a little too successful and had to use contractors. But yeah, so then one of your, what do you call them, the big wheel moments was
Yes.
during this era. I laid eyes on a strategic plan for the first time that someone was presenting. And it was like the clouds opened up and the sun shined down on this document that encapsulated everything the organization was and was trying to do in a very simple, clear, actionable way. And I thought, this is it. I just fell in love. And that's how I made the pivot into strategy. And of course, with an engineer and an MBA, that I didn't realize those two things usually equal strategy. I learned that later, so my mind was already kind of prepped for this sort of work.
Yeah.
Yep. And then so I went to work for Balance Scorecard Institute for a decade. That was where all the interesting client stories come from, Michelle. You know about me. So because I was leading strategy workshops or teaching strategy and organizations around the world for a decade, we wrote a textbook. And then internally, I was continuing to hone my operational skills, like reworking consulting, reworking sales and marketing, and expanding the international presence. And so all of these things just kind of like added up over 10 years. And the flexibility of being able to take my daughter with me on some of these amazing travels and have her be part of this. So it was just kind of the perfect blend of what I needed in that phase of my life.
Hey, it's Michelle. Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoy our podcast and know someone who you believe would make a great guest, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and let's talk. I'd love to hear your feedback, and as always, may it inspire you in your own personal and professional journey of life.